Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 28 of the Fair Housing Insiders. We are glad to be back with you again and to talk about an important subject when it comes to the new administration and housing discrimination against LGBTQ plus prospects. So we look forward to Kathy's insights. Before we get into that, welcome, Kathy. Nice to have you on the show again.
Thanks, Jonathan. As always, it's great to be here.
Yeah. An important topic. Last year, we had an episode that covered the Supreme Court ruling and how that was going to affect housing providers. And today, we're going to dive into, what is the administration doing and what do housing providers need to pay attention to? Do they need to wait? Do they need to do something today? So we look forward to your insights and comments on that, as well as a couple of scenarios that are happening right now in the leasing office that will provide some guidance and direction on how we can train our team. So thank you for being here on the show. Please remember to give us a thumbs up, give us that like button, subscribe to our channel. We are always grateful to put out this complimentary fair housing education for all of the property management industry. So thank you again for being here today. So let's dive into it, Kathy. So we have a new administration. We talked about the Supreme Court ruling in an episode last year when it came out. So what's new? What has the new administration said? What are they trying to enact? What's the updates since that Supreme Court ruling?
So from the Supreme Court case came down in June of 2020. And one thing that President Biden did when he took office was he told all of the federal agencies to look at that Supreme Court case and how it impacted their rules and programs. So one thing we are very aware of is that it's just a matter of time until HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, will issue specific regulations on how to implement the Supreme Court's decision that sexual orientation and gender identity are protected under the overarching protected category of sex.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you for providing us with that update. So that lends itself to a question, from a housing provider's perspective. Should property management companies wait for those regulations? Are we expecting an eighth protected category to come out of this decision and what the administration is doing? Or what do you think property management professionals and leaders, trainers, what should they be doing today?
Because the Supreme Court case was so clear on what the meaning was, I think it is very important that housing providers be proactive in this area and go about immediately training their staff on how to avoid even the appearance of discrimination against prospects based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. So I think they should be getting about doing that now. We do need to be clear, though, that it isn't that we have now an eighth protected category. What we have is an expanded existing protected category of sex. So while in the past we thought sex discrimination meant you couldn't discriminate in favor of men and against women or vice versa, now it means also that you can't discriminate against people based on the fact that they have a different sexual orientation than perhaps, heterosexual, and that you cannot discriminate against someone who is has a gender or is expressing a gender that is different than the gender they were assigned at birth. That's kind of a complicated, area to understand. And that's why I thought it would be great if we talked about it today. Let's talk about kind of the practical implementation of what it means to avoid that discrimination.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I know our whole community really is going to appreciate this episode. So we look forward to a couple of scenarios really to kind of set the stage for what is happening right now. And we encourage that all of our listeners and our viewers to take these and use it as training for your team. Take this episode and use it as a session and review some of the points that we're going to continue to discuss here. So let's look at our first scenario. And again, Kathy, thank you for that explanation of what we can expect when it comes to regulations and the existing protected category of sex. So this scene, this is a leasing professional, and he has a religious belief that does not respect same-sex marriages. His negative attitude is obvious as he interviews our prospective couple and tells them about the application process. He asks them for a copy of their marriage certificate, although this is never a requirement for heterosexual couples. So let's take a look at the scene and we'll get your comments on it, Kathy, afterwards.
Here's your ID back. Let's start going over the application. Oh, I see here that you both have the same last name. Are you brothers?
No, we're married.
Married? Oh, okay. Well, do you have a marriage certificate? We'll probably need that for the application.
So what we see with this, and it's such a short, simple scenario, is if this leasing agent asks for a marriage certificate from all prospects, then he did nothing wrong. However, it is doubtful that he does. There aren't very many places these days that would ask for a marriage certificate. So to ask it of someone who is, a gay couple is discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the kind of thought process we need to get into. Just like with all the protected categories, if there's something you're asking that's specifically related to their protected category, in this case, sexual orientation, then it's probably discriminatory. So this is just an example of one of those ways that discriminatory conduct could pop in to an interaction without perhaps the leasing agent even being aware of the fact that it would be discrimination. Now it's illegal discrimination.
Right. Very good. Okay. Thank you for that explanation. So let's take a look at our second scenario. And in this scenario, we're back with leasing professional Chris. And let's see how he interacts with a prospect named Alice. And then we'll get your thoughts and feedback, Kathy.
Hi, is there a way I could get a look at your 2-bedroom apartments?
Sure. My name is Chris. And yours?
Alice?
Nice to meet you, Alice. I'll just need a copy of your ID before we go on the tour.
Sure. Here.
Okay, what is going on here? This person is dressed like a woman, but sounds and looks like a man. And the license provided says the name is Aaron, not Alice. Is this some kind of scam or con? I'm sorry, Alice. We won't be able to take you on that tour after all.
Okay, so what we see in this scenario is one instance of where gender identity can sometimes result in awkwardness by a leasing professional who maybe thinks that the person should be expressing their gender in one way, but instead they're expressing it in another. In this case, the name that the prospect asked to be called was different than the leasing agent thought they should be using. The leasing agent thought they should be using a male gender name, and instead they asked to be referred to as a female gender name, and that made the leasing agent uncomfortable, so they get awkward. And when you're in that position, the difficulty is sometimes the things you say can be offensive, or they even could be discriminatory. So I think the only way to prepare for these kind of situations is through training and role playing, so that everyone can handle themselves appropriately. And the appropriate manner is to allow everyone to express their gender in whatever way they decide. It could be as a male, it could be as a female, it could be as an asexual with no gender. It could be any way they choose. And we all have to respect that. So in a leasing conversation, if someone requests to be called Alice, even if you think they look more like an Alex, you should call them Alice and respect that, and not become suspicious or hostile, because what that will look like is housing discrimination. So now we have to understand that we've got to be used to these situations and ready for them, which is one of the purposes of training. And by the way, you need to be looking for testers who are going to be out there looking for fair housing cases caused by gender identity discrimination. So be ready, be proactive, get the training done, and you can feel comfortable.
Thank you, Kathy, so much for the explanation and giving us some framework to those scenarios and what housing providers need to be paying attention to. So a lot of key takeaways from our episode today. Number one, if you haven't seen last year's episode and Kathy's comments on the Supreme Court ruling, be sure to check that out. We will link it in the show notes and also on our website for the blog, to be able to pair the two together. Number two, don't wait for regs to come out. Start being proactive and looking at what you can do today. And as Kathy mentioned, knowing that fair housing testers will be also putting that into what they typically do for testing, keep an eye on those things. So in summary, use this episode to help train your team members. We're grateful that you've been here on the show. And we're happy to announce that we have a new course that's coming out. It's our Advanced Fair Housing. It is scheduled to be released sometime the end of August into September. So we look forward to that. And it actually covers this topic. So it's included in the course so that you'll be able to train all of your team members on this subject. So thank you again, Kathy, for being here. We appreciate, as always, your insights. And that is going to conclude for us today, episode number 28 of the Fair Housing Insiders. We look forward to seeing you on our next show. Take care, everyone.